Good afternoon. The tariff on Chinese products sold in the United States is 25% for most of them. For some, the tariff goes up to about 30%. So the product is manufactured here, then the US buyer pays a 25% tariff, then ships it to the United States where it's used, or more commonly, it's sold in retail stores at a big markup. So if you are a Chinese factory, manufacturing company that's making products that are selling in the United States, this becomes a math problem. Is it worth it to set up a manufacturing plant there and avoid that 25% tariff? Everything in the United States costs more. Factory labor costs more. Taxes are higher, regulatory compliance, insurance, inbound logistics, local transportation, everything costs a lot more in the United States compared to almost anywhere else, but especially compared to China. So when that math does work out, and it is beneficial for a Chinese company to open up a factory in the United States, it's just barely. And if anything goes wrong, if the costs in the United States come in slightly higher than expected, or if demand is slightly softer than expected, or if Chinese companies here in China cut their prices so that they are now far below the US factory price, then the math blows up and you lose money. And you and everyone else who decided to open that factory, you'll lose your jobs too. And this headline here in the news from the Wall Street Journal, this is good news for all those factory executives. Now there's no decision to make at all. There's no need to do any math. The answer is no. Do not build that factory. If you have an existing US plant, do not expand that factory. Politicians at the local level, state governors, even local state representatives are passing laws that are making US states uninvestable. And not only for Chinese companies, but for everybody. It's happening in places that are surprising, actually, because it's happening in states that do need more factories and more manufacturing. Here's Virginia, which stopped Ford from setting up a battery plant there and said that Chinese companies aren't allowed to buy land in Virginia either. Ford is now going to try their luck in Michigan, but their plant there will be much smaller than they hoped, and it might not even be built there because local politicians in Michigan are trying to stop it. Seriously, Michigan politicians are saying they don't want a new factory there. Recently, the state Senate in Iowa passed a bill that protects chemical makers from pesticide lawsuits, but they made a point to exempt Chinese factories from that protection. They wrote that into the bill, and they were targeting Sygenta. Sygenta is actually a company in Switzerland, but which now has a Chinese state-owned company as a majority owner. So in Iowa, they hope to attract factories that make agricultural pesticides and chemicals. And if you build it there in Iowa, you cannot be sued if it turns out that your pesticides are dangerous, unless you're Sygenta. The news from Arkansas gets weirder. Sygenta has been in Arkansas for 36 years, but Arkansas passed a new law. Sygenta has been ordered to pay a fine, $280,000, and sell 160 acres. To repeat that, this is a new law, and they can go back and fine companies and order them to divest property investments. Imagine you are a manufacturing company executive. Maybe you're in China. Maybe you're in Switzerland, or in Singapore, or South Africa, or South Korea, or South America. And lots of local politicians in the United States are inviting you to come, inviting you to spend hundreds of millions of dollars in their community to build a factory, create jobs and new markets. How much confidence should you have in what's going to happen there 5 years from now, or 25 years? Sygenta has been in the United States since 1970, and they set up in Arkansas 36 years ago. Sygenta. And they've been ordered to sell everything there and leave. Will that happen to you? In 5 years, most of those local politicians who love you now, they're going to be gone and replaced by somebody else. Who is that going to be? You're about to spend 9 figures on a new factory and hire lots of people before you make any of your investment back. Later, will local officials write a new law that says you need to sell your factory at a steep discount to one of their local friends? Or otherwise, can they make you shut the factory down? Are you certain that that will not happen to you and to your company? Alternatively, should you keep your money in your pocket or build your next factory somewhere else? Or invest your capital in robotics and new automation so you can make your products cheaper and faster and better. And whatever the tariffs are, just let the buyers pay them, just like they do now. Isn't that a better allocation of your company's capital with a lot less risk? And you'll never have to worry what somebody in Iowa or Arkansas or Virginia or Michigan is going to do 20 years from now? Isn't that smarter? Be good.
So do not be worried about your life, what you will eat, or what you'll drink, or what you'll wear. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will